Namaskar and welcome back once again. I can promise that this is the third and final briefing, and we have nothing after this. And for this, I have this is a special briefing on the visit of President of France to India from the 9th to 12th March. I have with me Nagaraj Naidu, Joint Secretary Europe West, who will brief us on the visit. He has also agreed to take questions on the International Solar Alliance because he has agreed only the questions. He will not brief on that because that briefing has taken place. So he has agreed to take some questions on ISA as well. Nagaraj.
Good evening. Let me first of all kind of brief you on our engagement with France. India has a strategic partnership with France. Rather, it was the first strategic partnership, one of the earliest ones in 1998. This year, we are celebrating 20 years of our strategic partnership. Both countries, we see a lot of convergence of views on a range of international issues, apart from close and growing bilateral relations across a range of areas. France has continued to support India's claim for a permanent membership to the Security Council and reforms of the United Nations, and has provided consistent support to India's candidature for membership to all the multilateral export control regimes, and particularly supported India's perspective on terrorism in South Asia. Civil nuclear, space and defense had traditionally have been the tripod of this engagement, but in recent years we are seeing greater convergence in new areas, particularly maritime security, counter-terrorism, and renewable energy, which has particularly, you will be seeing that will be Prime Minister Modi and French President Macron will be co-chairing the International Solar Alliance, the founding conference, which will be happening on Sunday, the 11th March. You will also be surprised to know that we have a very deep engagement with France in the area of space. It's a very matured engagement, over 50 years of partnership. We now would like to take this engagement to a new level. Hopefully you will get to see that at the end of this visit. Maritime security in the Indian Ocean region is a very important area where we are working together with France. Counter-terrorism is an area wherein we already have a dialogue. At the same time, we have a very rich ongoing economic partnership with 1,000 French companies in India, and they have invested close to $7 billion. We have a number of French R&D institutions in India working on very high-tech areas, and this is an engagement that is going to grow in the coming years. For your information, we have a bilateral engagement, a trade engagement close to $11 billion. It's a very evenly balanced engagement. We don't have major areas of concern when it comes to trade. We don't have any conflict. So this is one of those engagements which is not just with a P5 nation, but it's a very good engagement as far as any sector that you take, whether it is political, economic, cultural sphere, people-to-people exchanges. We have a very large Indian community in France and in French territories. In France itself, we have the Indian community, people of Indian origin, little over 1 lakh. That's a very large number. And there are 5 parliamentarians of Indian origin in France. 4 of them have participated. I don't know if you know, we had the PIO Parliamentarians Conference in January in Delhi, and a few of them had participated. The French Development Agency, FDA, they call it ADF, they have made substantial investments in this country, particularly in Kochi, Nagpur and Bangalore Metro. At the same time, you will see that France is increasingly engaging in this country in a number of areas, particularly the renewable energy sector. This will see a far much more substantial expression in the coming days. If you permit, perhaps I could go with you, through the program, if that. So essentially, the French president will arrive tonight at about 10 o'clock, and the next day we start, with the ceremonial. We arrive at the forecourt at about 9 o'clock, and apart from the ceremonial, we'll have the, we depart for Rajghat, wherein have the memorial of Mahatma Gandhi. The wreath laying will take place there. And then the French president has a program at Alliance Francaise. So he goes there and meets students. One of the first public interactions that he will have in India. After that, we'll have the official talks at Hyderabad House. And we will have not only the previous day, that is, apart from the bilateral, we'll have the CEO forum. The CEOs of both countries are meeting a day in advance, and they will report out to the leaders. And then we also have exchange of agreements. The French president is also interacting with students at Bikaner House in the afternoon, and in the evening, Rashtrapati ji is hosting a welcome banquet. And for your information, this welcome banquet is not only a bilateral banquet, but is also hosting a banquet for all the heads of state, heads of government, vice presidents, and leaders of delegations who are going to participate in the ISA founding conference. So this is a very large and elaborate affair. On 11th March, we have the ISA. The founding conference is a day-long affair. It starts at about 9 o'clock and ends at about 6:30, 7 o'clock. The French president is not going to be there throughout. He will be there for the plenary section, and he will be going on a private visit to Agra. The next day, he will be traveling to Uttar Pradesh. He'll be visiting two areas. One is Muzaffarpur, wherein I think there is the inauguration, Muzaffarnagar, wherein there is the inauguration of, Mirzapur, where there is the inauguration of a 75 gigawatt solar power project, megawatt project. And apart from that, I think they're also visiting Varanasi. And pretty much that sums up his visit, and he departs from there. So, the visit essentially, he's starting on the 9th and it ends on the 12th. So,
Prime Minister will also go to Varanasi.
That's the expectation. We'll see that. Let us leave certain things, at least for something for you to write. That I don't know.
Yes, I think we will come to the question and answer on very soon. Are you done with your briefing? Thank you, Nagaraj. We have time for questions. Yes, please.
Mr. Naidu, in 2010, the then President of France, Sarkozy, and Mr. Dr. Manmohan Singh had entered into a kind of an agreement so far as Jaitapur and Ariwa was concerned, actually. So it's almost 7 years now, actually. So is there any update, or is there going to be any discussion on this, the Jaitapur power project during the visit of the President?
I think a number of issues will be discussed. I think this could be one of the issues. So we know the timeline. The timeline is well known, but these are projects which are which would take time. So, but definitely, it is definitely among the agenda items, among other items too. So,
Venkatji. Oh yes, please. After.
Mr. Naidu, this is about the Solar Alliance. What is the total number of countries which have actually signed up for the ISA, and how many of them are sending their delegations to the meeting on Sunday? And what are the main objectives of the summit as such? Thanks.
If you see the countries that are signing up are actually signing by the day. This is till last night. Last night, the total number of countries that have signed the ISA framework agreement are 60, and 30 countries have ratified it. 30 have ratified it out of 60. So, countries that actually sign, actually the meaning is that they will initiate the process of ratification. 30 countries have already done that. You would already, I think in the last briefing we had conveyed that the ISA became a legal entity on 6th of December. And in February, the ISA was registered formally with the UN as a legal entity, as an international treaty-based organization. To answer your question as to how many of these countries are going to participate, 23 of the ratified countries are participating, and 24 of the signatory countries will be participating. So together about 47. So 47 heads of delegations will be coming to the founding conference.
So what is the 121 figure then?
121 is the prospective member countries. So you already reached the 50% number. So countries will join, end of the day, see, there is a framework agreement. So countries read up the framework agreement, they have to analyze it, they have to feel comfortable with it. Once they are ready to sign it, they'll have to take that decision and then come to us, and then the signing take place, and then they have to go back to the respective parliaments or cabinets and get it ratified. So as of now, we already have 60 within 2 years. It's very, very fast. Within 2 years, we've already set up the ISA. And we are very hopeful that once the founding conference is over, you will have the assembly which will take place, and the assembly will see ministers participating in it, and that will encourage more countries to join.
Just hold on. My suggestion is that perhaps we can take questions on the French president's visit first, and then we can move on to the next one. Yes, please.
So my question is on the Solar Alliance conference actually, if that's okay.
Maybe later after he's done with the French president's visit.
Okay.
Sridhar?
So there are some reports that the French president has apparently said in an interview that he has no objections to the Indian government revealing the price of the Rafale aircraft to the opposition, to making it public basically to the entire country. So in the light of that, would this issue be discussed between the two leaders, because it had created there was a furor in Parliament over this issue as well. So can you shed some light on this?
I'm not aware of this interview. Perhaps you should raise this with the French Foreign Ministry. Thanks.
Akhilesh ji.
What we are getting that maritime is going to be one of the major issues of cooperation between India and France. So can you elaborate on this, that what type of cooperation we are going to have?
It's an area where we are actually seeing increasing convergence because of the kind of activities, because end of the day there's a lot of trade, transport, movement in that area. There is, an area that we see that we perhaps could join hands and take our cooperation forward. The end result of this is perhaps, please give the visit a chance. We have a day to go, and the outcome will be, visible, and it will be brought to the attention of all the media. Thanks.
Athar, and then Tripti.
Hi, good evening, Nagaraj. The French ambassador is on record suggesting we are looking for structured and operational cooperation in defense and security in the Indian Ocean region. That's something you said as well. Now, given the fact that France has strategic depth in that Indian Ocean particular stretch, has India identified the strategic points that we would like to be involved in, not just on military bases that France owns in that region, but also they have that Mozambique stretch that Have we identified where we want to get in with them? And also, at any point, because there are reports obviously, and we must be aware of it, at any point do we does India see the participation of two more countries, a quad-like formation, if you will, in that area?
Unless you feel that we enter into agreements without thinking, then you shouldn't be asking us this question. I presume we should have identified. That's what I'm saying. Unless you feel that agreements are concluded without any thought process, you will get to see that. Thanks.
Athar, let me just explain that it's a state visit. You see, when you have a state visit, you have a certain format of the meeting. And the format basically, it goes from topic to topic. There is an agenda which is worked out in advance. And as Nagaraj mentioned, that a lot of these issues will come up for discussion. Specifically, what topic, which subject, I think this is something which we have to wait and see. We are trying to work out and see if we can do some kind of a briefing after the visit, post-visit, which will give us more clarity about the discussions which have taken place. Srinjoy. Srinjoy, I think before you Tripti first, because
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. I was wondering, what is the status of the high-speed railway project that France has shown interest in, I think, between Delhi and Chandigarh?
I think this conversation is happening between the two sides. I think they have done a feasibility study. Right now, the feasibility study report it's already concluded, and both sides are looking at it. And the feasibility study is usually followed up by technical discussions, etc. So I presume it's a very technical document, and MEA is not privy to this. Maybe this is better answered by the Railway Board or the Railway Ministry. But what we understand is that they are in conversation with each other.
Srinjoy.
Sir, during the last meeting with a different French president and Prime Minister, this 36 Rafale issue came up and it got sorted out. Now, the French have been repeatedly speaking of a repeat order, not only on the Rafale, but also on the Scorpene, 6 Scorpenes. Now, can you tell us how India feels about this? Because what the French have offered is already known. Where does India stand?
See, this particular area is not an area where MEA really has a role to play. This is far better addressed by the Ministry of Defense, because end of the day, the MEA doesn't kind of get into this area of activity. But definitely, what we now understand is that there are these negotiations, these talks which usually happen. But I am not aware of whether anything new is going to be announced, because the talks have not yet started. But considering that we are strategic partners, as I told earlier during the briefing, a range of issues will be touched upon. Thanks.
Just let me add to this. I'm sure you all must have seen a press release by the Minister of Defense on the 7th of February. And it's a very detailed press statement running into, I think, 2 pages. And this is regarding information relating to intergovernmental agreement on Rafale. And I think at this stage, before the visit is about to start, for us to comment more than this will be difficult. Maybe after the visit we may have something more on this. But at this stage, as Nagaraj mentioned, that this is something which is being discussed at different levels. We will wait and see and as to how things progress. But this 7th February press release, I think it's a very detailed press release which gives the Ministry of Defense version about the intergovernmental agreement on Rafale. No, I'm talking about this one. This one. What I'm trying to tell you is that this is the last statement which was issued by Ministry of Defense. Pranay?
You
referred about this 7th February statement by the Ministry of Defense, which mentions about the intergovernmental agreement, and it refers about a clause that no aircraft will be sold to India, which has a higher price to the aircraft sold to any other country. Today, the principal opposition party has raised question about, and quoting the Dassault Aviation annual report, that Qatar and Egypt got their aircrafts lesser than the price which India has got. So, what do you have to say? And are you going to take up this issue with the French government, because they have put out in the public domain in their annual report in this thing?
I would still mention that these technicalities, pricing related matters is not a privy and doesn't fall under the MEA's purview. We really need to raise this issue with the Ministry of Defense, who actually conduct these negotiations. So I think it is better. This is you will not get an answer from any of us on this question. I think the appropriate platform, you should approach the Ministry of Defense for greater clarifications on this subject. Thanks.
Yes, please. Fourth row.
One thing is not clear to me. Could you just clarify? 1,000 company already invested $7 billion or 17.
Seven. Not necessarily every company is a big company. The advantage of France is that a lot of the French companies are MSMEs. Actually, the MSMEs are actually, are the largest employers also. So value addition is something what India needs today. And small French companies come in very niche areas of the economy, which can really contribute to the value addition portion of manufacturing.
Apart from FDA, France Development Authority. France Development is it included or it is?
No. See, the French Development Agency, that is the AFD, it is like a multilateral bank. It's like a developmental bank. They look at very specific areas of operation, areas of their interest, maybe urban connectivity, green projects. So these banks always look at development-oriented agendas, which can actually, most countries have such developmental banks, and they have certain objectives. Objectives could be how do you ensure that, how do you reduce urban congestion? What kind of technologies could be used? How do you provide, maybe India is looking at smart cities. So how do you provide energy more efficiently? So there are certain specific areas where such, developmental banks concentrate. So AFD is focusing on the developmental agenda. Thanks.
We will move to questions on ISA now. Yes, please. Maybe after this. I think we will take your question later on. But let us do the ISA. He also has to leave.
Yeah, so my question essentially is, apart from the Solar Alliance, what are the bilateral technology transfers we're looking at between India and France, considering the fact that the French are much, more reliant on nuclear energy when it comes to clean energy than solar energy. And also, some questions are being raised about the fact that it's the only rich developed nation to actually back the ISA, so it sort of loses some muscle because of that.
I didn't get the last bit of your question.
The fact that there's a lot of, I'm saying that the French are essentially the one of the rich developed nations to back the International Solar Alliance. There are many other countries which are not on board yet. So how does that affect the Solar Alliance?
You see, basically, I don't know if you've looked at the 121 countries, the profile of the 121 countries. If you look at the profile of the 121 countries, it falls in a belt, the tropical belt, where the sun intensity is at the maximum, and it mostly happens to be poor countries. So why they aren't very rich countries is a very odd question. If you look at, it is not like we didn't. Funding is an issue, but that's what ISA is planning to make a difference. ISA is planning to get all the multilateral developmental banks to support the cause of the ISA. Increasingly, ISA is appealing to these developmental banks if they could set aside a particular percentage of their loan portfolio to fund renewable energy projects worldwide. So, multilateral development banks today are increasingly looking at giving green credit. So, it matches with what ISA is planning to do. So imagine if all the multilateral development banks of the world are able to set aside 15% of their overall loan portfolios for green agenda. It's going to be transformational. So I don't think you should assume that only just because there's one or two rich countries in the ISA, so it's difficult for ISA to sustain itself. Big ideas need funding, but today the world is ready for such an idea. So I think we are all confident that the ISA will be able to sustain itself and will be an organization that will be relevant. So if 60 countries have joined, more will join. End of the day, the ISA is not wanting to be a bank. It's not a banking institution. The ISA will be a facilitator of both perhaps technology, financing, capacity building, training, technologies, etc. How do they do it? Now is the time the interim secretariat which is there is working on some of these broad agenda items.
Just hold on. I think any other question? Follow-up question? Just hold on. Mic दीजिए उनको.
The bilateral technology transfer, anything that you can share?
Is this within the ISA framework or
within between India and France?
It's a bilateral question.
Yes.
See, even as we speak, there are a lot of technology, partnerships that we have in place. The quantum of tech transfer is something that you will really, I am not aware of it, but it is actually happening. You wouldn't have had 1,000 company presence in this country if either France doesn't see value in partnering with India or we don't see value in partnering with France. I think this is happening already.
Tripti?
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. What is the logic of ISA not having a membership fee, one? And two, there are countries that are not between the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn, but apparently they have tapped well on solar energy, countries like Italy, Mongolia, etc. How do they come on board that have shown interest in joining the ISA? Thank you.
You see, earlier when the ISA was being thought through, I think the general idea was, why don't we get all those countries together which enjoy about sunlight for about 300 days. So there's a little study that was done. They found 121 countries, but it is not that countries beyond these 121 don't get sunlight or are not keen to join the ISA. I would just like to inform you that the last steering committee meeting of the ISA that took place in Delhi, which was the 6th steering committee meeting, decided that going forward they will open it up and invite all countries that are keen to join the ISA to become a member of the ISA. This decision has already been taken. And once the assembly is set up and the first meeting takes place, I am sure that more countries will be formally invited into the ISA. So we will be going beyond the 121.
Akhilesh ji?
First bit of a question was?
No member.
See, the point is, ISA is planning to be a 21st century organization, a very lean organization, an organization of ideas. At the same time, if you put a membership fee, again you're creating a club. The idea is to get everybody in. When your vision is so big, why do you want to restrict it with a membership fee? That's the idea.
Sir, one of the issues that has come in the whole formation of ISA and its goal, that who will do the manufacturing, because India is not a big manufacturing center. So there is an apprehension that are you providing China a platform by creating an ISA and creating willingness among the poor countries, and then manufacturing will come from China. So how will India gain out of it, ISA?
See, this idea is, maybe it originated in India. The Prime Minister championed it. How do we gain out of it is that we want the world to gain out of it. We don't see a very personalized gain through the ISA. That's looking at the ISA very narrowly. It's an international organization. We are looking at a broader cause of climate change. How do you tackle it? If you look at the ISA purely from what is in it for my business, then I think you are narrowing down a very large concept. This should actually offer ideas to young entrepreneurs in India to look at ISA and look how best can they support it, maybe through manufacturing. So this is an opportunity. You got to build on such a platform. The platform is there. It's visionary in its overall approach. Now it is for the Indian industry, if it feels, why not look, it offers not just an Indian market, but 121 countries and even beyond. So now is the time for industry to recognize that, look, why not? This is a great platform. So how do we kind of make use of this opportunity to perhaps strengthen manufacturing in the solar sector? So I think our approach to the whole issue must be very different.
Thank you. I don't see any other question. Thank you, Nagaraj, for briefing the media on the visit of President of France to India and also taking questions on the ISA. And thank you for the patience for the back-to-back briefings. Thank you very much.